Alright, so welcome to my spoiler review of Godzilla Kong the New Empire, GXK, the latest Legendary Pictures movie. I did a non spoiler review yesterday on the World of Geekdom channel, so make sure you check that out. This is going to be spoiler talk. I'm going to go into really what I did not like about the movie and what I did like involving the plot. So there you go. You've been warned. Okay, so first of all, I need to get this out of the way, and I said it in the non spoiler. I am not comparing this movie to Godzilla Minus One. You just can't. Yes, they both feature the same main character, technically, Godzilla, and they're both centered around, monsters, but that movie is a completely different tone and has a different purpose to exist. This movie is supposed to be a popcorn, wacky action comedy type of film that, like the other ones were. You just go there, you eat your popcorn, you dig the pseudoscience, and you watch some giant monsters doing pro wrestling moves on each other. But even going into it with that mentality, I really wanted to like this movie more. I do like the fact they focused on Kong more than Godzilla, even though it felt a bit unbalanced because there was so much less Godzilla in the movie. And I think that the ultimate sort of letdown for me, it wasn't even the wackiness. I mean, there are things that I found annoying. Like, I will go into that right now. Dan Stevens as Trapper he did the best he could, but man, Brian Tyree Henry, dude, I thought he was more likable in the previous movie. Here, he basically became the I'm going to make jokes all the time character, which has kind of hurt other movies like Ant-Man and other sort of that Marvel comedy that's kind of getting played out. But here he was just annoying. I actually, at no point did I give a damn about his character. Like, I wanted him to die. And that's a problem a lot of these movies have. Like, that is an issue a lot of these films have. Now, the character that did resonate with me, the human character, was Gia. Because they actually did a really good job here of crafting her backstory, having her tied into the people from the deeper regions of Hollow Earth. Like, I like that. I really like that they actually tried with her. And it's funny because to me, this is probably the best written human character in this Legendary Pictures saga since the first Godzilla film that had Bryan Cranston's character. She was likable and interesting, although the science behind it, like the two pyramids somehow give her like this psychic connection, like it got a little bit silly, but at the same time, I would be a hypocrite if I said that this was too silly, even though it is silly when the Japanese Showa and even the Heisei era Godzilla films did stuff like this all the time. The Mothra angels were always these mythical, like demigod type of creatures, like these fairies. They're not real people at all. And the origin of these monsters has always been ridiculous. So you have to just kind of treat this like a Showa era Godzilla film. But even when you do that, it did disappoint me. I thought that Scar King and Shimu, they really, the marketing going into this movie made me believe that Scar King and Shimu were the most dangerous duo in all of the Legendary Pictures films. They made it legitimately seem like Shimu was more dangerous than even Ghidorah. Like, it felt like that. By the way, I've been saying Shimu. I think I meant to say Shimo. Shimo. I think it was Shimu on one of the promotional things. But they had the big finale in Hollow Earth, and they had the whole anti-gravity battle, which I thought was just like insane. Like, can you imagine them doing that? Try to sit down and think about this. Imagine them doing the exact same sequence using the special effects of the 50s and 60s, using the guy in the suit, and just using practical effects to make him float. They did have Godzilla use his breath to fly once, so it's not that crazy. Just imagine how goofy that would be. Well, this was also pretty goofy, I would say. But yeah, I really felt like the build up to the Scar King's attack was going to be done better. Like, the fight wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't like it was a horrible thing or anything like that. But Shimu did not feel as powerful as I thought he was going to be. Same thing with Scar King. And at no point did I think they were a serious threat. Like, having that Infinity Gauntlet thing they added to Kong in this movie is such an obvious toy promotion to sell that as a toy. It's just, I smiled because I'm like, yeah, I know what you're doing. The Japanese have done this for decades, bro. I get it. Anytime you watch a Japanese show and they introduce a new form or a new robot or something, it's to sell toys. And we do have numbers that do prove that these Godzilla movies do sell for the kids. I mean, they really do. And you know what? This movie did feel very much like a Saturday morning cartoon in many ways, a longer one. And I did think it was a little bit too long. There was obviously stuff they could have cut around it. They kind of wasted a lot of time in some instances, I thought. Everyone, including myself, was saying that going into this movie, you have to turn your brain off. And the problem is, even though I did my absolute best to turn my brain off, there were just so many things that were so over the top and dumb. And it just got more and more to the point where I was just like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this movie again. I thought that the kills were not anywhere near as barbaric as I had hoped for them to be. Although there is a lot of human lives that are lost in this film, that I will say. The rampage of the monsters was crazy. It might not be as completely over the top and insane as, for example, Hong Kong was in the last movie, but that's mostly because the final battle took place in the Hollow Earth. And it was something else, man. There isn't much about this movie that makes me want to go back and watch it. There really isn't. I thought the monster fights were subpar compared to, and there's a couple of good ones, but compared to Godzilla vs. Kong and then the Mechagodzilla fight in Godzilla vs. Kong from 2021. And I also felt like the Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019 I thought was better too. Like, that's probably my favorite among these, even though the best film is probably Skull Island. People have been screaming for years about putting the focus on the monsters more than on the humans, and they did that with this movie to kind of mix the facts. You know, the best thing about the movie, I would say, in Kong's quest is his relationship with Zuko, who is a younger ape from the lower section of the Hollow Earth. And I actually want to say I do really like the idea that they have not discovered or explored all of Hollow Earth, because there's more scary stuff down there. Like, I really like that. And I actually kind of dug the backstory too about how Godzilla trapped the apes in like a little chamber or something. It was very very much like a JRPG with that. You know, it had that kind of origin story, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's an uncharted region, basically, and that's where Kong meets Zuko. And they had a lot of scenes together that were mostly just a lot of body language and a lot of like moving and you know, gyration of the body. And they tried to do that to get around the lack of dialogue because animals can't talk. And I'm not even sure if these monsters, like, I don't think talking is a good idea. You know, I think that's dumb if they make them talk, and putting subtitles on might be too cheesy, so this is the best they can do. The reality is, you can't really have a movie that is just about monsters. You have to have some humans in there so that we can relate to it. Unless, of course, your movie's like a 10, 15, maybe 20-minute short. But if it's a full-length theatrical movie, this film, I think, proved that you just have to write the humans better. This with -1, which I'm not comparing it to, but I'm using as an example. You, no matter which way you want, you could have a whole movie of just Godzilla and Kong smashing each other, but it's just not going to work for, like, you know, a 2-hour full-length movie. It just doesn't work. This movie was almost 2 hours. It was 115 minutes, little shy of 2 hours. But you kind of have to have human characters to kind of pad the plot along. I thought they were misused in this movie completely. I thought that, you know, having Rebecca Hall's character, Eileen, be like the narrator, explaining stuff, I didn't like that. I thought that a lot of the stuff that she just magically knew was I don't know, a little weak, honestly. I thought it was lazy. At the same time, that's more of a critic's mind than just a fan. At the same time, though, that's why I'm saying this is a complex movie for me. Some of the Japanese ones weren't. So the big battle at the end, and they end up in Rio de Janeiro, and he's about to begin a new ice age. But what happens is, and this is really wacky. This is one of those turn your brain off things. So basically, Scar King has this crystal that he uses to control Shimu or Shimo. Like, that was, an interesting choice, I felt, because it's kind of goofy. Like, we've seen stuff like that before where, like, the humans or the aliens in some of these movies invent, like, objects to control them. Here, he had this little crystal, and somehow he was able to induce a new ice age. Of course, the humans just knew what he was doing, even though he doesn't speak. That, to me, this felt like one of those situations where they were honestly trying to not use the humans that much and just have them be expository characters. But whenever they used them, I found them annoying, with the exception of course, Gia, and that hurt the movie. Like, you just have to write better humans. It's not even about minimizing their screen time. You have to make them at least interesting. And they did it, I thought, with Gia. They did it with her. But with the other characters, I mean, they could have cut them out of the movie and it wouldn't have been that much of a difference. You know what I mean? The way that Scar King went down was a great ending. And the whole build up to Mothra, Mothra's return, like, that was very Japanese again. And basically the story kind of ends with Kong becoming the new leader of the apes that are in that secret area of the Hollow Earth. And Shimo goes back to the Hollow Earth. Then Godzilla goes to sleep. I guess his new sleeping site is the Roman Colosseum. That's wacky. This was a wacky movie. And for better or for worse. Again, I didn't hate it. It was just stupid and goofy. And I'm not sure if I'll ever see it again. Like, I might watch it again as part of like a party, or if I'm showing it to someone. But I don't know, man. I just feel like it just doesn't have that rewatchability. King of the Monsters did. Even Godzilla vs. Kong did. This one, I don't know. It wasn't as good as I was hoping for it to be, even judging it on the scale of what these movies are. So those are my thoughts. What did you think? Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. I'd love to hear it. And hopefully the next one, because they got one more in the can. I think I have one more they're going to make. Not in the can, but there's one more they're going to make of the Godzilla Kong like trilogy. There's one more. So maybe there we'll see aliens. Who knows? Take care, y'all. I'll see you soon.